I may not be the superhero you wanted, but I am the one that came with your free trial. Hello, and welcome to Drag Me to Adulthood, a drag and lifestyle variety show where we help you discover your adulting superpowers. I'm your host, Emma Eagle. On today's episode, we'll be covering a very simple topic: how to reattach a button. Unfortunately, I will not be able to teach you how to button up your aunt's mouth when she starts to debate you on climate change around the dinner table. Without further ado, let's get right into the episode. Okay, we're going to begin our journey with a 4-hole button. You'll need a button, about 2 arms length of thread, a needle, and a paperclip, which will make sense later. First, to thread the needle. If you don't know how to do this, it's a great time to give up. No, I'm kidding. So I found the best way to do this is to use a needle threader. These come standard in most sewing kits. Simply put the metal portion of the threader through the eye of the needle, put the thread through that, and then string it through. If you would like to do this the old-fashioned way, cut the thread at an angle, moisten the tip of the thread, and then shout expletives until something happens. You chicken, and your uncle was good. Now simply pull through. Pull the thread through the needle until the entire length is doubled up and the ends meet. If you have some left over, snip it off with your scissors. Take the thread between your thumb and finger, looping it once and overlapping the ends. Push the thread off of your finger using your thumb, grab the ends, and pull to create a double knot. Now let's look at the fabric. You'll likely be sewing onto the right side of the fabric, the side that has print. The wrong side of the fabric is the side that will face the inside and does not have print. To begin, position your button where you want it on the fabric. Use your thumb and a finger on the back to stabilize the button and guide the needle through the first hole. Pull the needle through. Check to make sure the thread hasn't bunched up in the back and that the knot is making contact with the fabric. And then, going at a diagonal, put the needle through and pull the thread almost all the way to the other side. At this point, put the paperclip in the loop you've created. The paperclip will prevent the button from getting too tight against the fabric, making it difficult to slide over a buttonhole later. Now find the hole opposite the one we first threaded through. Push the needle through, and again at a diagonal, go back through the fabric. Repeat these stitches, normally 3 to 4 times, to get a secure hold. Push the needle back through to the other side of the fabric, underneath the button, remove the paperclip, and twist the thread under the button 4 to 5 times. This will create a shank, which will hold the button up, allowing it to glide easily over a buttonhole. Pass the needle back through to the wrong side of the fabric. Now we're going to take a small piece of fabric underneath the button, making sure that it will not show on the right side of the fabric, and pull almost all the way through, leaving a small loop. Here we're going to pass the needle through 2 to 3 times, and then pull straight up, using your other finger to push the knot down, cut off the ends, and there you have it, a 4-hole button. Okay, so for anyone wondering what a shank button looks like, here's an example of a very discreet shank button. No, I'm kidding. So this is a shank button. The only difference is there are no holes in the button itself, but there is a hole on the pre-made shank on the back of the button. We're going to position the button on the fabric and use a pin to mark where we want the button to sit. Push the needle through the fabric on one side of the dot that you made on the front. Loop the needle through the hole on the back of the button, and then push the needle through on the other side of the mark. Pull tightly, and we have our first stitch. Now, select a place either above or below the first stitch that you took, thread through, and then, going at a diagonal, push the needle through the shank and back through the other side of the fabric. Repeat this once again, going above or below the previous stitches, and working again at an angle. Put the needle through the shank and pass it back through the fabric. Repeat these stitches as many times as necessary in order to secure the button. Once again, create a knot, the same as we did in the 4-hole button. Cut off the excess, and there you have it, a shank button. And now for the jean... Cleopatra? Cleopatra, get out of the frame, ever since you and Julius Caesar broke up. As I was saying, now for a jean button. The biggest problem with repairing a jean button is the jeans have normally torn, compromising the strength of the fabric. In order to strengthen it again, here I've stitched up the hole and I've applied a piece of iron-on bonding, and I would love to tell you how to do both of those things, but that's for another video. To create a hole in the jeans, this kit came with a nail. You're going to hammer the nail through in order to create a small opening in the denim. You'll notice here I'm working on an old piece of wood, so I don't have to worry about hammering on it or causing any damage. Now, place the pin through the back of the fabric. We're going to use the small rubber tool that came with the kit in order to protect the button from the hammering. Place the button on the front of the fabric, and if you care about these things, line up the text on the button so that it's facing upright. Make sure to line up the pin and the button. Hold them together and hammer. Here I'm driving the pin into the button, so I'm going from the back of the fabric to the front. I found this is the best way to prevent any damage happening to the front of the button, although it may be necessary to turn it around and go from both directions in order to get a secure hold. You may repeat this process several times to get the pin and the button to come together. Here you'll see I'm hammering from the front of the button, using the rubber tool to protect the front directly on the wood. Check to make sure this is secure, and there you have it, a jean button. Why do you have to gender label button components? This is just a question. On the instruction manual, you'll notice that the male components and female components fit together, which of course we support on this channel, but these components could have just as easily been called the stud, the snap, the cap, and the socket. Just some thoughts. Okay, and now for a snap button. In most cases, you'll be attaching two right sides of fabric facing up, which is what we're doing here. Mark the position of the button on both pieces of fabric with a pin. They include a hole punch in this kit, but I found it was pretty worthless and is better for thicker fabrics. So in this case, we're just going to be using scissors to cut small holes. Take the piece of fabric that you want to be on the top and put the cap from the right side to the wrong side of the fabric. On this, we're going to place the socket, or the piece with wires on it that will attach to the other part of the snap, on the back. And we'll use the small metal tool and the pointed driver. We're going to hammer into the socket to drive the pin down inside. If it's not flush, you can always give it a few extra hits with the hammer to bring the pieces together. Now, taking the longer stud, place it from the wrong side of the fabric on the other piece through to the right side. Place the small cap, which will be the snap of the button, on top of that. Use the concave metal tool to drive those pieces together. If the button has trouble buckling, it's likely due to an issue with the cap and the socket not being flat enough on the inside. In order to fix this problem, hammer the two pieces of the button together and unbutton them. Repeat this process until the snap is clean and easy to insert. And there you have it, a snap button. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and please give me suggestions for other topics I should cover. Until next time, please remember, we each have a superpower. It's your job to find yours and use it for good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got a phone call earlier from a nice man named Brock who said he needed my help. So if you don't mind, I'll be on my way. Now, let's see. I may not be the superhero you wanted, but I'm the one you got. But I am the one that came with your free And there goes that effing heater. Nope, it's gonna turn on. I can feel it in my soul. Oh, crap. Unfortunately, I will not be able to help you button up your... Unfortunately, I will not be able to button up your aunt's mouth. Unfortunately, I will not be able to help you button up your aunt... Why did I make this so hard on myself? Okay, I've got it.